EU punishment, Tim Martin warns Brussels will use deal to tie up the UK for decades. Wetherspoon's boss Tim Martin has raised fears that the EU will try to tie up the country for decades as he urged Boris Johnson to go for a no-deal Brexit. Wetherspoon's boss Tim Martin has urged Boris Johnson to quit the talks with the EU and pursue a no-deal exit. The leading Brexiteer told Talk Radio that he fears that Brussels will try to tie up the country for decades. He also hit out at Boris Johnson, claiming the Prime Minister and his cabinet are incapable of making good decisions over Brexit. Talk Radio host Julia Hartley-Brewer asked Mr. Martin on Friday, "Do you want there to be a deal, or are you worried we will be sold down the river? That no deal is preferable." Mr. Martin responded, "I'm rapidly forming the conclusion that Boris Johnson and his government are incapable of making a good decision. I really hope they don't tie up the country for future decades." He said Britain was better off with a no-deal Brexit because it could become more like Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and South Korea. The founder of the leading UK pub chain said he would prefer the UK do things week by week and strike mini deals here and there with the EU. He added, "I'm not confident that Boris is capable of tying up a 20,000-page agreement and checking the small print." This comes as talks on a post-Brexit trade deal enter yet another critical 48-hour period. Talks between the UK and EU in Brussels are understood to be focused on how many years it will take to phase in new fisheries arrangements. Speaking in the European Parliament on Friday, the EU's negotiator Michel Barnier said the moment of truth had arrived and there were only a few hours left to seal an agreement. Boris Johnson has vowed to keep talking but warned that the negotiations are in a serious situation. During his appearance on Talk Radio, Mr. Martin also said the government's coronavirus tier system is driving the economy towards real trouble in the future. He said, "I think it's bad for the hospitality industry, and just as bad for the entire country. 800,000 people have already lost their jobs, that is the equivalent to the working population of Birmingham and Manchester. The reverberation from that will be very great. Unemployment might double again, that will cost the country a lot of money." In November, the businessman wrote to MPs decrying the lockdowns, saying, "There is overwhelming scientific evidence that lockdowns and quasi-lockdowns can be counterproductive, as the World Health Organization has recently emphasized." The World Health Organization's special envoy on COVID-19 Dr. David Nabarro has said he has been misquoted over the use of lockdowns. He explained, "What I was saying, we don't want lockdown, it was not to say we should just let go, it was to say we've got to get the systems right, and once the systems are right then we can avoid the lockdown."